Oh, well, hello there. From satire to strange and superhero to sanskari, the Indian comic book arsenal has something for every kind of reader. What we are trying to do is turn the spotlight on one creator or one series, so stay tuned. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about today is essentially my favorite Indian guttural sound. Holo, 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 holo. What is that sound? It's strange, right? It's a sound that your stomach makes when sometimes you're very hungry because all the gastric juices get together and say holo, 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 holo. Or Halahala, as it is actual name, is the name of a comic book series created by George Mathen under his pen name Appupen. Why is his name Appupen? Because this comic book artist and filmmaker and also a drummer with some Indian bands turned comic book artist sometime in 2008, and his name in Malayalam, which is Appupen, means an old man with a pen.
I have a pen, I have an apple.
So Halahala is a dystopian universe built by Appupen in which the entire world has come to a standstill because of machines. And you will see a recurring theme that is running through all his comic book series generally. But typically, the Halahala series is about the world which is Halahala. Halahala is also a mythological reference. When during the primordial churning of the universal waters, was created this one venom which is called Halahala. And that one venom had the power to annihilate the entire universe. And the only way that it could be kept silent is when Shankar actually swallowed it and kept it in his throat. So hence the sound. Are you getting it? Why I'm making that sound? No? Okay, never mind. It starts with the first one, which is Moon Ward. When a meteor comes and hurtles towards the planet, at the point of impact, a new world is created, where everything that is in the core of the earth actually comes out and everything on top of it is obliterated, which means that all of humanity is gone except for a few people who would have survived this complete nuclear decimation. And what happens is that a lot of plants are genetically morphed, a lot of strange creatures and monsters are living now over, and a lot of machines are now taking over the entire planet. As in any good dystopian, because this is what it is now, it's a dystopian world that we are now living in. As in any good dystopian world, there are two classes of people that emerge. The white city, which is run completely and by machines, and in which the humans think that they have some control, but it is the superior race. And then there is the green city, in which all the plants and the monsters have managed to sort of stay alive, but they are dying. It's a place that's falling to decay. In this world, there is a new class of people who survive this annihilation called the grey people, who are actually creating food that the white people and the grey people can both eat and survive on. What that is basically lotus milk. Lotus is the only actual plant that has survived this annihilation that is edible by human beings, and hence the grey people chew it to make a kind of juice that is then harvested, stored, and then distributed amongst the people. Because of this class shift, which is in any good dystopian book that you will ever read, you will always realize that there's a class shift because of, sort of lack of resources. It will be divided only amongst the rich, and the poor will suffer. The book Moonward establishes this fact, and then in the following books, the universe is built even more. The second book in the series is called The Legends of Halahala. The Legends of Halahala is basically a universe-building exercise, where now that there's a new world order, there must be new mythological beings and new gods that we must all follow. Interesting note at this point, while during the course of Moonward's universe establishment, all the really important people in the white city rose to the top and became godlings. These are creatures who had all the power and controlled all the keys to all the resources, and hence they started being called as the godlings. They could decide the fate of what everybody else would meet eventually. Hence, the need for a new theological order. A new religion was started, and the Legends of Halahala talks about a lot of them. What is really interesting about Appupen's work is that he's not a writer. He is a creator. What that essentially means is that the entire series is drawn in very stark black and white art. There is, guys, no text. I swear to you, this is what the entire comic book series is about. It's a dystopian comic book series sketched in very stark black and white ink, and there is no text. Yet it's a book. Appupen really relies heavily on the fact that you will follow the narrative because the narrative is all explained beautifully in pictures. There may be some text points here and there as section breaks, but none of it adds to the story. This is an interesting type of book because what you are doing is you're storyboarding a whole dystopian future. And that is possibly because of his work previously as an animator that he's created this kind of a series. You do see some words appearing in the third book in the series, which is called Aspyrus. Here he even dabbles with color. Aspyrus is a very strange book. What do you think happens after every new world is created? First, there is annihilation. Then there is the establishment of a new world order. Then there is religion. Then there are followers. What will happen next is commercialization. In Aspyrus, he talks a lot about what would be the biggest noble cause that any good society would follow. You guessed it. It's to fight your right. It's to fight for your right to watch television. Yes, this is what Aspyrus is all about, which is why it's actually drawn in a lot of color, and the color that he's chosen to put in the book is blue, because all screens, as you know, when they start to malfunction, turn blue. Appupen is actually playing with your mind a lot. Here he talks a lot about Richard Branson, Kingfisher air hostesses, and there is also a lot of references towards pop culture nuances that he would have seen in the 90s. There is a lot of MTV, Beavis and Butthead. This is now when the New World Order is established, religion is established, and now we must dumb down people's expectations so that there is no rebellion at all. Aspyrus is one of those rare comic books in which you will see a lot of clash of extreme color with extreme black or white. You will see pages which are riddled with blue ink, and then suddenly you'll see a lot of like woodcut, embossed black and white art. But what is interesting about Appupen's work is the fact that he holds his narrative, he holds your attention to the narrative without giving you any text. And in the absence of text, your mind starts to wander. That is when you try to put your own words together onto the frames and try to imagine what the dialogues could be. The interesting part about Appupen's new comic book, which is the fourth in the series that just came out, called The Snake and the Lotus, is the first one in the series in which there is actual text. Finally, Appupen realized he needs to put dialogue. He needs to put some sort of context to what is happening in his comic book. The Snake and the Lotus is, as you can guess, a story about rebellion. There is a girl from the grey city. There's a guy from the white city. A lot of weird things happened. She becomes the unlikely face of the rebellion because she's a reluctant hero. And she pretty much lays down to what happens in the end of this book. The snake in this case is the white city guy, and the lotus in this case is the girl who represents the revolution. And it's interesting. There are a lot of strangely anti-feminist things also happening in this particular book. But what I like about the fact is that he's actually decided to put some section breaks by adding bit more dialogue and hence bit more context to what is actually happening. So this is what the Halahala series of comic books by George Mathen or Appupen is all about. Why I think it is relevant to talk about this in India is that a lot of the narrative here is borrowed from various pop culture movies that we might have seen. And he's deliberately taken it from pop culture movies and not comic books so that there is a distinction in Indian representation in universal dystopian themes. Whether it's Alien or Terminator, there is a bit of, monster and machine that is playing together. And there is also references to Hunger Games. But let's be honest, if there is an annihilation or a dystopia that is going to come to the Indian subcontinent, it will come to Bombay, which is what is represented here. So this is my actual plea with you guys. Pick up this series, read the Legends of Halahala. Tell me what you think about it. And maybe we can open a discussion about what other Indian comic books that we should all be reading together. So yeah.